Today is Tuesday, August 20th, 2019. My name is Edna Sussman. I'm a reference librarian at the Half Hollow Hills Community Library. We're interviewing Louis Feldman, a Korean Army veteran, as part of our Veterans Testimonial Project and in collaboration with the Library of Congress's Veterans History Project. Thank you so much, Lou, for your service and for participating in our project. So, Lou,
I did what I had to do, period.
Okay.
I'll explain how I got into the Army.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning. Where and when were you born?
I was born June 17th, 1928. I believe I didn't go to the hospital. I was born in an apartment. I don't know whether there was a nurse there or what they call an aide. But that was my beginning.
And what town and state?
Brooklyn, New York.
Okay, and who were your parents? What were their names and occupations?
Well, my mother and father, my father was Pincus, my mother Ida. My father was a Schneider.
Okay.
He worked in the garment district. My mother was a full-time home mother. And we had a wonderful, wonderful family.
How many siblings did you have?
They gave birth, my mother gave birth to 5 sons.
Wow.
She was looking to, she wanted a girl for sure, but
Sure.
it never came about. Okay.
And what were their names?
And the firstborn was Willie. Normal name was William. Secondborn was Sidney. Thirdborn was Henry. And I'll tell you how these names came about. I was the fourthborn. On my birth certificate is Leo.
Leo.
But my mother said, I don't like Leo for whatever reason. I want Louis. I want Louis. She must have been fond of someone. Okay. She did the same thing with my brother Hank. He was born with Harold. And she said, no, I don't like Harold. I want Henry. Henoch. And my brother Willie was Velvel. My brother Sid, Yisrael. I was Ayalabe. And then came my brother Irving, and he also is Yisrael. So there you have the 5 of us.
Were any of them in the military? Also? Did any one of your brothers serve in the military like you?
Oh, I'm getting to that.
Okay.
My brother Willie and my brother Hank served in World War II. My brother Willie was in the Battle of the Bulge. He wouldn't talk about it. My brother Hank was in the Middle East at a transportation company, and there was the battle against Rommel. As far as then, and my brother Sid, fantastic mind. He worked as a physicist in the Brooklyn Navy Yard, developing items of war that would be beneficial to the troops.
Nice.
Okay. Me and Irving were basically home people, and my mother wore the white gown and white cap. I'm not sure whether she was part of the Red Cross or anything, but she did her part. She became an interpreter for the hospital.
Really?
Because she spoke Polish and she spoke Russian.
Wow.
So immigrants coming in, she helped the hospital
Nice.
Get the information.
Very nice.
My father, strictly a Schneider, worked in the garment district for many, many years. I have all the stuff from the International Ladies Garment Union. Okay. And
so
basically speaking, We were, except for the war, we were a very happy family.
Yeah, nice. What were you doing before you joined the service?
Let me go, I have to backtrack a little.
Okay.
A friend of mine named Iggy Rappaport, his real name is Ignatius. He didn't like that. But he convinced me to try out for the boys' high football team. Boys High School was one of the premier academic schools in New York. So I tried out, I made it. And overall, I became one of the better athletes at Boys High. There was no way two football players from Boys High on the same team being able to make the first Scholastic. So Skippy Fast was on the first team, Scholastic, all Scholastic. I was on the second team, all Scholastic. I had a great career playing football. I loved it. I got a scholarship to NYU on football scholarship.
Wow.
It wasn't easy. I had to travel from Brooklyn up into the Bronx and to practice with the football team. I came home so tired, I couldn't even look at a book. I just wanted to sleep. So I was on the NYU freshman team, and we were playing a game against Rutgers, freshman team. I was all over the place making tackles. You couldn't believe what I was doing. And then they set up a play for me, what they call halfback trap. In those days, this was the end of the line. 5 yards beyond that is a safe zone. Beyond the 5 yards, anything goes. I was about to make a tackle, and I saw the corner of my eye what was coming at me, and I couldn't react fast enough, and I got chopped down. And in those days, that was legal. You can't do that anymore.
Really?
Okay. My knee was torn so badly that when they finally wound up Beth Moses Hospital, in order for them to correct whatever was wrong, I had a 14-inch scar.
Oh, wow.
I had to lift up my kneecap to get the meniscus out from underneath. And that was the end of my so-called football life.
Oh.
And so...
What year in school were you?
that was...
Oh, you were a freshman?
I graduated in 1947 from Boys High. And then the fall of 1948 is when I got that injury.
Uh-huh.
All right.
So it was your first year in college?
Yes. Yes. Because of that injury, I couldn't play ball anymore. They took my scholarship away. They can't do that anymore.
Oh, wow.
Okay. And they did such a poor job on me, taking care of me. And so I'm backtracking a little. They put me in the hospital, and all they did was soak my knee with whatever solution they had. It didn't do me any good. So when I lost the scholarship, and I essentially lost my position at NYU, and so I went back to the basics of what my brother Willie did, my father did. I worked in the garment industry.
Oh. So you didn't...
I had a pretty good time in the garment industry. Then I was laid off after 3 years of working there.
Did you work with your dad?
I worked in the cutting room. I worked handling the cloth. They have big round things like that, stacking them up. I worked in the shipping room with another person. I was doing pretty well until they did clothing for J.C. Penney and Sears, which the top of the line stuff went to other manufacturers. Got to the point where their business wasn't doing too well. They laid me off.
Oh.
So I did some odd jobs. And around, I did a job in a bakery, Crew Bakery in Jamaica. And they made the best cheesecake that you could find in the city. It was a commercial bakery, big, tall building. And all I did when I worked there, at the end, I worked on Saturday, and what I did was oil the machines that where the baked goods were put into the oven.
Okay.
And then at that time, it was the time that I went to the Young Israel dances at Sunday evening. That's all written down over there.
Okay.
But I'm going to, because I'm skipping an awful lot.
Okay.
I intend to write my autobiography someday.
Good.
I have such good thoughts.
That's great.
Anyhow, I went to the Young Israel to see if there was anybody there that I would like to be with. 4 or 5 times, nothing.
This
Got
is
to
still,
the point.
it's all before your service, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. It got to the point where I was going to give up.
Oh.
That night, one night, I looked across the room. You see that smile?
Yes.
There she was.
Oh.
I never would. I was never introduced to her.
Really?
Never met her. I didn't know whether she saw me play ball or anything like that. It was clear out of the blue. No blind dates. There she was. Across the room.
Can we put this in front of the camera for a minute? Can we put this in front of the camera for a
Sure.
minute?
Okay.
Just want to hold it up for a minute?
Okay.
Good.
Okay. Well, and there she was.
Okay.
You know what she was doing?
No.
She was smiling, that beautiful smile.
Yeah.
And she said, "Come." And
What year was that? You remember?
oh, maybe 1950.
Okay.
And there she was, beckoning me with a beautiful smile. There was a force pushing me towards her. It was like I was floating, like 2 clouds in the sky coming to each other. I got to her and we embraced.
And you didn't know her name yet?
Didn't know her from the hole in the wall.
So let's put her
We
back here.
embraced. It was unbelievable. An unbelievable feeling. It was like embracing into one. And then I courted her for a couple of years. And then one day, I was living in a building, 229 Stockton Street, minding my own business. There was a mother in the building. complained to the draft board. Why is my son in the Army and Louis not in the Army?
Oh my goodness.
So I got a letter from the draft board to come down to Whitehall Street. I bring the letter, look at me, what are you doing here? I was called down, I don't know why. They went into the file. Mr. Feldman, you're dead.
Oh, what?
You're deceased. What are you doing here? Oh, no, I'm in the Army. That's how it happened.
How did they have that record saying you were deceased?
I don't know.
So let's put her back here so we can see you.
Right?
Wow, that's amazing. So then they drafted you right away.
Yes. 1, 2, 3. I was in.
So you didn't get a choice of which branch. This was the Army?
No.
Okay.
I was sent to Fort Dix, and this is the beginning of my Army career.
Well, what happened when you deported for training camp?
The first thing they do is to try and figure out what kind of specialty would you like to be in. Mm-hmm. I said, what do I know? Would you like to be a linesman or a radio op? I looked at him with a blank face. You know what? I'm going to let you be a radio op, not a linesman.
What's a linesman do?
They climb up the pole to set up the wires for communication.
Oh.
They were sitting ducks wherever you went in a war. Mm-hmm. So I did my basic training. The physical part of basic training fit me to a T because I love physical activity. Mm-hmm. But the radio op part was a different story. I had a hand like an elephant's foot. So when it came time for my graduation, I had to send the Morse code and then read it back. I couldn't understand anything.
Oh.
So they put me back into a new company.
Oh.
The company that I left went to Korea. The company that they put me in, they shipped me to Fort Devon.
Where is that?
That went to Germany. Fort Devon, Massachusetts.
Okay.
And from there I went to Germany. But prior to that, Libby said to me, we're going to get married.
Oh.
Period. And so the event took place. Temple Emmanuel in Bensonhurst, Brooklyn.
What year was that?
Beautiful, beautiful synagogue.
Uh-huh.
There's a Temple Emmanuel also in Manhattan.
What year was the?
1952.
Uh-huh. So the Army gave you time?
We had a reception. I know I invited some of my Army colleagues.
Oh.
Okay, we got it. I don't know how we did it, but we got a 10-day pass.
Oh, nice.
And we wound up at our honeymoon in Taberman Lodge in Pennsylvania. It was beautiful. And the time went too fast. I went back to Fort Devon, then shipped over to Germany on a troop ship.
How long did that take to get there?
I think it took 3 days to cross.
Well, before we leave training, do you remember any of your instructors of basic training?
There was only one person I remember by name. That was Sergeant Adolf. Now, when we went through basic training, there was a part about bayoneting. You know what they did? Sergeant Adolf, and another sergeant. I forget his name.
That's okay.
They stood facing each other with a rifle, a bayonet, and then they go charge at each other with the bayonet.
Yeah.
Stopped right here.
Ooh.
And then he said, you know what, that will show you how to use the bayonet.
Wow. Did you learn how to...
Luckily, I didn't have to use it that way.
Wow.
I went to Germany. There was no such training like that in Germany.
But in the training, that's where you learned radio operating.
The company I was in was a signal corps company.
Uh-huh.
When we went to Germany, and we had an overnight or 2-night stay, all of the equipment was set up. And basically speaking, what we had to do is listen to what was coming over the radio by Morse code and get it down on paper.
Oh, transcribe it like...
Okay.
Yeah.
But basically speaking, it was a sham.
Why?
Because the equipment didn't work right.
Oh.
Okay. And as far as being physically active, it was a sham. There's a lot of sitting around, a lot of lying around.
Really? How did it feel? How was it adapting to the military life? The food and the social life?
Basically speaking, it was very easy. My best part of Army life was the training I got at Fort Dix. Because it's active, movement. The final part of that was a 10-mile forced march with a knapsack, a gun, everything strapped around you, water, this thing, that thing. I did a 10-mile march like it was a snap.
Really? Good for you.
I love movement. And that's the way I had my life as a youngster.
Yeah. So when you got to Germany, what town were you in? Do you remember?
Okay.
Yeah.
And we wound up in a town called Heilbronn, which is a suburb of Stuttgart.
Yeah.
Stuttgart is a major city, okay? And in essence, it's in a surrounding area called the Black Forest. So we were put into a German army barracks. It was pretty good. And on the other side of the was a transportation company.
U.S. Army?
Army, yeah. But I'm going to tell you straight out, you could see the segregation. It was all black on that side.
Really?
Yes. And as far as that's concerned, I went to visit my son in France. I'll tell you all about that. He's a director of a symphony orchestra in France.
Nice.
And there was a memorial service that he wanted me to see and hear.
Do you remember about when that was?
That was November of 2018.
Oh, okay.
It was pouring rain. The two bands out in the open. On the far side was a stands in the open, pouring rain coming down. And then they went through the ceremony. I was up in the stands. I had to be helped up. Steps were that high.
Wow.
Whenever there was a call to attention, I got up and honored them. What they honored was the black soldiers that fought side by side with the French army.
Really?
General Pershing at that time wouldn't allow black soldiers to have arms to fight.
Oh my gosh.
They were strictly forbidden to have any kind of arms. And generally speaking, the black soldiers served as service, like you would say, a waiter.
Really?
They were strictly non-forbidden
So they didn't
to
do,
carry arms.
so they couldn't go into combat or anything?
No, wait, I'm not finished.
Sorry, okay.
The French generals saw what was happening. They went over to General Pershing and said, "We would like to have your black soldiers." And that's how the black soldiers became part of the French army.
Oh, wow.
And that was a celebration that I went to
I see.
in honor, the 100th year, in honoring those soldiers. Okay? And it's a very touching. There was 2 hours of standing in the rain
Oh, wow.
for those who were on the outside, including children who were waiting their turn to put flowers on the monument.
Oh, wow.
And so, getting back to the other part of me, the Korean War was the impetus for me and Libby to get married. I was discharged 3 months before the end of my full term.
Okay.
Why? I have no idea.
Huh. What was it like serving in Germany? What, were you in the same place the whole time? Or-
My base was Heilbronn. That was it. Now, that doesn't mean that you didn't do things that sort of make life bearable. We were allowed to go into the town of Heilbronn, visit restaurants, walk around. Let me tell you how we were received in Heilbronn. Whenever the Germans had a chance to talk, and some of them were able to speak in English, and they said, "Why?" I've got to backtrack a little. Heilbronn, there were the American division and the British division. They were surrounded. They couldn't get out. So what did the British and American do? They sent in big, massive bombers, destroyed all of Heilbronn.
Well, this
So
is
they-
during World War II.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's in World War II. That's what happened in World War II.
yeah.
Destroyed Heilbronn without even using the so-called hydrogen bomb that they use in Japan.
Yes.
Now that picture stayed with them. Whenever we went into Heilbronn to have some time off,
Right.
go to a restaurant, so on and so forth, the first thing out of some of the Germans' mouth is, "Why did you do that to us? We didn't do anything."
Oh. Wow.
We listened, we didn't pay much attention to that because we knew what the real story was. Now, let's put it this way. There may have been some Germans who didn't know what was going on, okay, and they may have felt that. But the majority of Germans had to know what was going on. You should look up the Nuremberg trial. How the U.S. Army, adjutant general, prosecuted the Germans from up here to down here.
Right.
There was a conclusion from the judges, 4 or 5 different categories of crime against humanity. Number 1, the top echelon who brought out the concept, if you're not Aryan, you don't live, or you're put away. 2, those soldiers who carried out the concentration camp,
Right.
the gas chambers, so on and so forth, guilty of crimes against humanity. 3, if you were in the government and you knew what was going on and made no attempt to at least raise your voice against it, guilty of crimes against humanity. And there was a fourth one. If you were not in the government and you were not in service, but you knew what was going on, and you didn't try and say something about it, guilty. Crimes against humanity. Now, I want you to visualize, I don't know whether I should say it, I want you to visualize, even though they're coming from another country, I want you to visualize crimes against humanity being perpetrated here in the United States.
How did you feel in Germany then? I mean, you felt fairly safe, but there was always...
There was no such thing as open Nazism.
No.
No. There was no fear of going out and walking
No.
in a town or any other place. The occupation brought about something that minimized and the way the Germans participated. They began to understand why crimes against humanity were brought against some of, especially the active participants. So there was a sense of calm for the occupation forces. My brother-in-law, Leo, may he rest in peace, was also in World War II. He was in the tank division. I don't know which command, but he had a sense of the German language, which is part also the Yiddish language.
Close, right?
So they used him as an interpreter.
Oh.
Okay. And also, I mean, whatever happened in World War II, memories, for some people are sharp. My brothers never wanted to talk about it.
Really?
Too horrible.
Really?
Okay. So getting back to me,
Yes.
me and Libby,
Yes.
we got married. I served my time, came home.
What year were you discharged?
I was in, well, I know I got discharged in 51 to 53.
53.
And they came home.
Did you stay in touch with her while you were there? How did you stay in touch with your family and Libby?
Well, I either wrote, in those days they used to make a recording on a record, and you sent it home.
Oh.
Bypassing all the other stuff that happened while I was in Germany.
Was there any more stuff you want to talk about from the German time?
Well, some of the stupid, foolish things that GIs can do,
Oh, you mean on
which I
recreation?
never, I vowed my whole life was Libby,
Yeah.
and nobody else. There were soldiers there who had sweethearts, they had wives, and so on and so forth. The opportunity to have sex is always out there.
Right.
And even with the warnings of gonorrhea and venereal disease, some of them, I don't know how many, went out of their way to have sex. And sure enough, they contacted gonorrhea, they contacted syphilis. I don't know whether that was on their army record, I really don't know.
Yeah.
But for them, I don't know how they did it.
Did you
They have
establish?
no guilt
No
of
guilt.
coming back to their sweethearts or their wives. I just don't understand. How could you do that?
Yeah. Did you develop friendships while you were there with some other
Very
soldiers?
brief.
Really?
There were at least 6 of us from New York
Oh.
that were in the company. And we had good times together. When I got out of the army and they got out of the army, I had them over in my house 2 or 3 times,
Oh yeah.
right? But eventually, as time goes on, you know, they drift away,
Right.
and that was the end,
Right.
okay?
What did you do for recreational time while you were over there?
There are 2 things, major. One, from the cigarette companies, free cigarettes.
Oh.
And then there's beer.
Must have been good in
Okay?
Germany.
So that's beer and cigarette, beer and cigarette, beer and cigarette. Every once in a while, there was a dance. I attended one of them. And the experience I had, I said, no way, I'm not going to do this ever again. My vow to Libby, she's the only one that I would ever embrace in a loving or sexual manner.
Yeah.
That's it. Done.
When you left Germany, when you were discharged, that was the end of your service in Germany.
No,
No.
they put me into the Army Reserve,
Oh.
but I never did any service with the Army Reserve.
Did you have to
I don't
go?
know why, but that's it.
You didn't have to go every month, or?
No.
Okay. So in '53 you were discharged, and
Yes.
then you came home to New
Right,
York.
when I came home, whatever happened on my honeymoon, there was a Beth waiting for me. She was born in April 21, 1960, I believe, 4 pounds, 8 ounces.
Oh, little.
Yeah. But you should have seen her muscular shape. Unbelievable. There was an aunt on Libby's side, Alice. Whenever she came, and she looked at Beth in the crib, and she said, "Look at that, unbelievable, how beautiful, look at that." And what she was looking at, my Beth was standing on a small beach ball, straight as could be, and smiling and cooing and all that kind of stuff. My Beth was spectacular.
What did you do when you came home? What did you?
Well, Libby said to me, "Lou, you're such a great athlete. Go to college and become a phys ed teacher."
Oh.
My Libby was an up person. And she said, "Lou, you're going to be a great phys ed teacher." Well, with the help of the Army, getting $108 a month to go to school, I went through 4 years of health and physical education.
Where was that? What school?
Brooklyn College.
Okay.
And then I went beyond the academic diploma. I went on 30 more credits for equivalent to a master's
Wow.
in physical education. My first job, Libby was already teaching after she gave birth. Her mother and father took care of Beth. She went back to work in a elementary school, BS 274 in Bushwick.
So she was teaching, actually, she was working there while you were abroad, or not?
No. And she was pregnant and I didn't know it.
Oh.
Okay. But after she gave birth, we lived in the building that her mother and father lived in. Her father was a landlord in that building. And so with Libby pushing me on, I did what I had to do. I passed the junior high school exam. I was sent to a junior high 33 in Brooklyn, right in the middle of one of the most dangerous projects that you could be in, the Marcy Project. I never had any trouble.
Wow. How long were you there?
I was in junior high maybe 6 years. I had a very good reputation as a teacher, but also a very good reputation with the children.
Now, before you started that, when you came home from the service, how were you received by family and friends?
The embraces that I got, that I came home not only from Libby's family, but from my mother and father and my brother. And so there's special stories that I can repeat. Me and Libby became teachers. I also coached basketball in the junior high. I coached softball in the junior high.
Nice.
I coached a little bit of tennis, a little bit of track, anything that I can get a hold of.
Wonderful.
Okay. And then I took the exam for high school, and the exam was a two-part. Phys ed, swimming. I was never a swimmer.
Oh,
If I go into the water, I sink.
Oh.
My bones were so dense and heavy. I automatically sunk. Anyhow, I went through the paces and I passed by the skin of whatever. I got a 65 passing grade, and I wound up going to High School of Commerce in Manhattan. That building was similar to my junior high school. I told you you had to go up the steps into the playground and into the school. High School of Commerce was built the same way. Within a year's time, they closed that school and they sent me to Brandeis High School in Manhattan on 84th Street. And I had to go to that school from Queens, Fresh Meadows. But in any case, I was there at Brandeis High School. Now, the block was a dilapidated block. And in one tenement building, there was a house of ill repute. Nothing much ever happened, but we knew what was going on there. I had a wonderful time at Brandeis High School. I taught the same way I taught in junior high school. Gave my students the respect they needed because of the family background, and there were gangs around there. It was my feeling that you have to give them something that they can latch on to. And you got it back. Believe me, you got it back.
how long did you teach totally?
I taught 30 years.
Wow.
Okay. And I went from Brandeis High School to South Shore High School in Brooklyn, the Canarsie area. But I have to tell you something special that took place. They came to me, since I played football, and I had a very good reputation. They came to me and said, "Lou, we want to have a football team here." I said, "Oh, well, sure, why not? The school needs it." Well, we formed a football team of wonderful boys. Even some of the boys belonged to a gang. But I gave them the respect they needed, the dignity that they needed.
Nice.
They never ever spoke about gang stuff
1 second.
and so on.
No, thank you.
I'll have a little bit.
Can we shut the door a little so it doesn't pick up her voice? Thank you. So Lou, you know,
I
after
formed the football team, and we had no field. I had to take equipment and material into Central Park
oh gee,
to do the practice and so on and so forth. By the time my team, the last year I coached there, we came very, very close to being a full champion.
wow,
We played against Clinton High School, a powerhouse football.
was that your last?
We had this much to go to get a first down. We were winning at that time. And what I gave, I said to my fastest runner on the team, I'm going to give you the ball, and you make sure you go straight ahead. Because I knew what the other team was trying to do to stack up to prevent anyone coming straight forward by the center. I wanted him to go to the outside, but for some reason he stumbled, and we didn't make the first down. And history says you have to live with it. Clinton came back and scored a touchdown. That was the end of the game.
Oh.
But in any case, I had a wonderful time at Brandeis High School.
No, you stayed
And then
there?
I moved over to South Shore.
Okay.
Okay? At South Shore, I taught physical education, health education. In all of my years of teaching, I never shouted or pointed a finger or did anything that would be a threat. So I love my life as a teacher.
Yeah. And you stayed there at South for the rest of your career, or?
That was the end of my career. That was I departed from South Shore High School in 1987, and that was the end of my teaching career. Although it wasn't totally out of the education system, because I have to go back a little bit. Me and Libby became supporters of the union at that time, under Al Shanker and I forget, Charlie Cogan, Al Shanker, Jeanette DiLorenzo, Jules Kolodny, so on and so forth. The backbone of the forming of a union at that time. So in order to gain some more salary and better benefits, the union called a strike. Me and Libby went out, not knowing what the future would be, because the Board of Ed said, if you go out, you're going to lose your job. We went out. That lasted about a month, and the negotiations took place, and we gained, period.
And you what? Gained?
We gained
Did you get
increases in salary,
So you got your jobs
better
back?
working conditions.
And you got your jobs back?
Oh, I never lost it.
Oh.
And then about 2 or 3 years later, we went out on strike again for better salary, better benefits, health, pension, you name it. That lasted a few days, a week. Then came the third strike. This was the longest of the strikes. 2 months.
Wow.
And we stayed our ground. And the benefits from that strike was so huge. And pension, medical, salary, working conditions. That third strike made us the strongest union in the country. And that led to other mergers. Mm-hmm. New York State United Teachers merged with us. And eventually, later on, the NEA merged with NYSET and different locals. Mm-hmm. And so there was that big unit under the umbrella of the American Federation of Teachers. Mm-hmm. Wow. We became what we call chapter leaders. Mm-hmm. Libby in 203 in Queens, and I in South Shore High School in Manhattan. Mm-hmm. From that point, we became delegates to the UFT, to NYSET, wow, and to the AFT. Wow. And they all had their own way, own conventions that they set up, okay? And the conventions were nationwide, mm-hmm, drawing people into the conventions. And those conventions were to draw up concepts of what better benefits can we get, mm-hmm, better medical can we get, so on and so forth.
You're very active in that.
Yes, I got elected. We both got elected. Nice. To be delegates.
Can I ask you a few more questions about your military?
Go ahead.
Okay. So how do you think your Korean experiences, your wartime experiences in Germany affected your life?
Basically speaking?
Yeah.
My career in the Army was a good one, mm-hmm, but also better than that. It pushed me and Libby to become, we are two, our love is one.
What?
We are two, our love is one. That's the ring we have on, yes, now in, yes, Hebrew.
Yes.
I'm not sure it was King David or King Solomon. Mm-hmm. We found these rings in Greenwich Village. Oh. When Greenwich Village was the second tier of jewelry, mm-hmm, in Manhattan. The 40th Street area was the tier of jewelry for the city. Mm-hmm. So if you, there's a certain part I have to read to you. The Korean War was a blessing. Hmm.
Why
I have to put it that way.
Oh, because of Libby?
Yes. All right.
What are some life lessons you might have learned from the military?
You have to be persistent in doing what you think is right. Mm. Okay? And doing things that are honorable. Mm-hmm. And doing things with dignity. And beyond dignity, when you're with people, you have to do things that will bring around friendship.
Nice. How do you think your military service impacted your feelings about war and the military in general?
The point of the matter is that's very difficult to answer, because I was never part of it.
Well, whatever you did helped the effort,
my
though.
brothers were part of it.
Yeah.
Okay. And as far as I'm concerned, if we can make major gains in humanity without war or hardships that cause death or permanent injuries, that would be the best thing to do.
Mm-hmm. What message would you like to leave for future generations that might view this interview?
Repeat.
What message would you like to leave for future generations that will hear this interview?
Look very carefully at what you see and what you hear. If what you see and what you hear is harmful, reject it. Make your life with dignity, not only to yourself and your family, to those around you. My way of doing things with people, and it was always in the same way with me and Libby and my children. When you see a person in need, give them help. When you are around people who are giving you dignity and respect to you, give it back. Reject all ideas of defaming, not speaking well of those who you don't know but are being harmed by some kind of event that the Bible or the Ten Commandments say you should not do.
It's good advice, Lou. Very good. Anything else that we haven't discussed that you'd like to add?
It's not easy to lose a loved one.
No.
And especially because of what she faced after the stroke.
How long were you married?
65 years plus.
Wow. Beautiful. Amazing.
Okay. And there's always that touch of the saying, we are two, our love is one. And then came Beth, we are two, our love is now two.
Mm-hmm.
Then came Mark. It stretched from we are two, our love is one. We are two, our love is two. We are two, our love is three. And that's the circle.
Mm-hmm.
That's the circle of life. And you have to live by that.
Yeah.
So much is happening these days. We're binding to that circle. Not for me. I'm living through it. But for others who are facing derogatory sayings, threats that you have to face. In today's world, the way I feel, too much going on. That's preventing the loving bond that you need here.
Sad, but thank you. Thank you for your thoughts and thank you for your service. We really appreciate it.
Well, that's it. That's the way it is.
Thank you, Lou.
And what's been the famous Edward Amaro, if you remember?
Yes.
Okay. And right now, my loving bond will always be there.
Thank you. Thank you, Lou, for sharing.